The Writers Guild Association, which is the American Writers and Screenwriters Union, has been on strike for several weeks now, seeking better pay and conditions for the dignity of work in their profession in the United States. The thing is that after weeks that they have been doing this, a little while ago some conversations of the CEOs and vice presidents of the big content companies like Disney, Amazon, Netflix, and Warner Brothers were leaked. Some phrases that the truth is that break my heart made me reflect on the importance of reformism versus revolution, and to really see which fights are worth fighting and which fights are not worth fighting. But look, in this case, one of the CEOs of one of these big companies said, referring to the writers' strike, he said, well look, in the end for us, the end game, and I love the fact that he used the word endgame. The goal of the game is to drag things out until these complainers start losing their departments. Start losing their apartments and their houses, and we have planned that this is going to happen around October. I love that he used the word endgame because it's the name of the last Avengers movie, which again reflects a hyper-real society where objects and signifying chains have taken on a kind of autonomy over humans, and we still treat real events as if they were spectacular. That is telling you that endgame exists for the writers' strike in the writers' strike in the United States. It's like, do you think Captain America and the Hulk would be in favor of the big streaming companies or in favor of the writers who are on strike? And the worst part of the case is that if superheroes existed, it would be just like in the series The Boys, the Amazon series, by the way, great series and crappy platform. But Amazon series, The Boys talks about exactly what superheroes would be like if they existed in the real world right now. They'd all be sponsored, and they would all be dominated by the interests of capital. So yes, in case this movie was like the Endgame, big streaming platforms version against the poor employees, Iron Man would definitely fly out to shoot them to get them to go back to work for miserable wages. This was not the last comment. Another CEO commented, I think this is going to be a long-term strike, but we're going to let them bleed out. Our intention is to let them bleed out. We do not believe that this will end exactly on Halloween because, maybe we could take advantage of that to make an event. But certainly at the end of October, this is the intention. Carol Lombardi, another important businesswoman in the world of content, said we have been talking about this for a long time, and we know that it is going to drag on. Nobody wants a strike, but also nobody wants to give in. That is, nobody wants to give in to the demands they are making to have enough money to eat and sleep in a roof with a firm salary and a firm floor to survive the winter. So as these seem to be absolutely absurd demands, the most normal thing is to leave them in the street until they run out of money. The other thing that is an aggravating factor in this context, and we have to think about it, is that just this year we have seen the emergence of artificial intelligence through the GPT chat format, but also that it has been replacing in many ways the labor force of many jobs that we did not have the radar. Writers are one of them. It's obviously true that maybe artificial intelligence right now can't replace a writer like Gillian from Breaking Bad, or like Martin from Game of Thrones. Although honestly, how bad were the last few seasons? Although maybe artificial intelligence is not ready to replace these writers yet, what it does do, and this is the way I want you to think about it, is that it works as a competitor, at least for the cheap copywriters, which saturates the market, and by saturating the market, it makes competition between workers. In this case, human writers and non-human writers compete for wages. And obviously, let's assume that there are more people who can do this work. They may not all aspire to the same salaries and the same positions at the very top, but they all compete against the same employment block, so to speak, which increases the competitiveness and makes people end up accepting more unfair salaries. Why? Because now there is a machine that is able to write you in volume, in mass, with low quality definitely and low definition, but for a ridiculous price, for a very low price. So many of those writers who before were doing that work of maquila, writing, copywriting, and creative phrases and whatever you want, now they are not going to be able to do it because machines are doing it. And also the executives of those big platforms are thinking, hey, we have never tried to do anything with artificial intelligence. We have never tried to do anything with artificial intelligence. If we gave the machine a couple of scripts, and instead of having 10 scripts, And instead of having 10 senior scriptwriters, we just had 2 senior scriptwriters, and the other 8 scriptwriters were replaced by programmers, and the only thing they would be doing is putting prompts into artificial intelligence and getting scripts out. And that the 2 senior scriptwriters, instead of writing, are just revising, but we are still going to produce 10 scripts at the end of the day. That's the danger, and in this case, the strikes make it even more fragile and accelerate even more the disarticulation or the disintegration of the disarticulation or the destructuring of the category as such. This, in the end, leads us to think about the difficulty of the paradigm between reform and revolution. Because the idea of reform would be, no, little by little we are fighting for labor rights, and it is a little strike here and a little strike there, and we are fighting, and eventually we are going to achieve more dignified conditions. And eventually we are going to achieve more dignified conditions, but in parallel what is happening is that the deregulated industry is simply taking advantage of the strikes to accelerate even more the precariousness of the proletarian, to make his conditions even more precarious, and to make him lose even more bargaining power. And to make them lose even more bargaining strength in the face of the, let's say, contingent difficulties that arise at this historic moment.